Welcome, guys. Welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I'm really excited, and thank you all for coming back and making this possible to our YNA. And I'm just really excited to welcome Pastor Lyle and Cheri Notice. Some of you guys might have remembered them from our last week's segment on relationships, but today, if this is the first time, we're really excited to have them here. They're super funny. They were a blast on our last week's live. Super funny, and really awesome couple to have on here. They've been married for 12 years and together for 19. So even though they might look, well, at least Cheri might look like 20, and Lyle, I know he might be hiding the grays underneath that. So I'll give him like 27. but really excited to have these guys on there. They've been together for a while, and I'm sure a lot of wisdom behind that. So really excited for that. And just to let you guys know, we did yesterday, we had our follow-up with, if you were on last week, the other couple, Harold and Marissa, and we did our follow-up yesterday, and that was posted on our youth, Crossing Youth YouTube page. So if you missed that, would love for you to have that, check that out on our YouTube page. And aside from that, here it is on the screen so you guys can see. There's the YouTube page if you want to hop on, go watch some of the videos that you missed. Subscribe and follow and get that done. But aside from that, we're just gonna start with a word of prayer, and then we're gonna get rolling here. Super excited. Let's just bow our heads for prayer today. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all that you have done and all that you continue to do. Thank you that we're able to continue just having these lives and these YNA lives, and that we're able to reach out and touch people, especially during these times, as we're supposed to be practicing social distancing, but thank you that we're able to just continue doing this and adding value. And thank you for Pastor Lyle and Cheri for just being willing to take time out of their evening and just bless others and add value. So I pray that you're with us, and I pray that you can speak through Pastor Lyle and Cheri today. And thank you for all that you do. In your name I pray, amen. Awesome. Super excited. We're just going to get jumping into here. We got quite a bit of questions from last week. So we're just going to get rolling. You guys ready, Pastor and Cheri? Awesome. Let's get rolling. So the first question is, expand on attracting your emotional equal. Hey, just pass it off.
A pastor friend of mine explained it to me, and it was just like, no matter who you are, you will always attract your emotional equal. And I think essentially how emotionally healthy you are, you will, even if you're not seeking it out, it will find you almost naturally. And so sometimes you'll wonder, how come this person is always with this other type of person? And it's like, it's because of what is going on inside of them. And I think sometimes when we haven't dealt with that emotional baggage and those challenges and those issues, how it comes out is that the people who are around us, it will be reflected in them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, when we're talking about emotional equal, some people may not understand what that is. So there are some people who approach life, and though you may be 20, you may be 25, emotionally you are stunted at a certain age based on maybe trauma, your upbringing, based on just your personality or what you've gone through in life. And because of that, like, you're attracting people who are the same. So for example, if you struggle with being truly honest and accepting and loving yourself, you're going to attract people who are going to be preying kind of on that, or who have the same kind of attraction to that. So like, if you have a problem with your self-confidence, you always see that those women, especially I know for women, we attract men who oftentimes, they also are not confident in who they are, but usually it's interesting because they come off like they're very confident, and they go after those kind of girls. Specifically, And so it may look like there is one person who's really confident and one person who's not. But any person who goes into a relationship where you're demeaning another person, it shows that emotionally you're not in a place where you feel confident enough. And so though you may come off like you're confident or you have all the bravado, how you treat another person seems to show that. So it's more so about where you are in life, how you deal with conflict, how you approach life. All those things kind of create like your emotional state.
They say psychologically, a lot of us are somewhere trapped at our 8-year-old self, or the last time where you were at the intersection of that trauma that took place in your life. Yeah. And so what happens is, in order for you to have survived or overcome, you developed coping habits and coping mechanisms. And what happens is, from that 15-year-old self or that 8-year-old self, you've learned how to survive. But what happens is, when you get to a certain age now, you're maturing, you're coming into yourself. A lot of those coping mechanisms that sometimes are negative, they no longer work for you. And so it's this internal battle that's going on with inside of you, but yet you're also picking up vibes and you're picking up certain people based off of your emotional health.
Well, that's powerful.
Does that make sense? Is there any more clarification with that?
No, that's powerful, because when I looked at that question, I was like, okay, it might be like a simple answer for that, but no, that's powerful, because like you really, I've learned that you really do start attracting who you are, and so it's and what you're talking about, Pastor Lyle, getting trapped at that 8-year-old mindset or 15-year-old mindset, and just coping and not really, I guess, growing over that. That made a lot of sense for me. But yeah, let's go on to question number 2. How has coming from a divorced family and then also coming from a family that has been together, how has that affected your approach to marriage? And then did you pick up any habits or attitudes towards marriage that you had to overcome?
I think that's where, I'm coming from a broken home, and you sort of operate out of those patterns. And I mentioned last week where, we would get into some sort of like smoke, some sort of drama. And my first reaction would be like, oh, for real? That's how you feel? That's how you're coming, eh? You see. And that was my go-to. That's where I left off. That's what I saw my father do. And so I literally acted out those very things. They became very real. And I think the positive is she came from a home that was like a good home. And so she helped me in so many ways when I would revert to some of those negative habits and those mental blocks and those patterns. Cheri would be like, nah, that's not it. Let's come again. Let's try this again from a healthy mindset. And so I thought that was helpful for me.
Yeah, but I think also on the flip side, I had to learn how to be more understanding. So like I'm coming from a home where most of my aunts, my uncles, like my grandma and grandpa, like everybody is still like together. I don't know if they're all happy, but like they together, So like I was used to growing up seeing like people stick it out and be together and like have big family stuff. And I think for his family, it was kind of the flip side, like where a lot of the relationships, like they have children out of wedlock and they have like, so there's a lot more baggage that like is outwardly seen. I think the interesting thing is like through him, I was able to kind of see though, like even though like a lot of my family members, they're still together and even my parents are still together, there was also other baggage that like they were bringing and that I had to overcome. So for example, I mentioned it last week, I had never seen my parents like resolve an argument. It was just one of those things where like they would have like a little tiff and everybody would just disappear and we wouldn't know what happened. And then like everybody was like cool again. And I think especially within the Black community, we have a hard time resolving conflict. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that a lot of this stuff just gets swept underneath the rug. And so I also, through him, I was also able to see the brokenness that like I was coming with, the baggage that I was coming with. It's not like I just came from this happy-go-lucky Goldilocks home. Like, I had to confront some of those kind of things. And then we learned how to be patient with each other, so that we can learn how to navigate through that.
I think too, Cheri sort of taught me how to fight. And what I mean by that is, you know, as a male, you know, I always had this mentality where it was like, okay, you know, I didn't really have to put up a fight for things. Things came easily, whether that was girls or what have you.
He would actually tell me, he's like, do you know how many people would want to be married to me? Do you know how many people would want to be with me? I'm looking at him like, sir, like, you're not like the biggest like catch out here. Like I got other people checking for me too. Like, if you're gonna be about that life, I'm gonna be about that life too. So you stay there. Like, you know what I mean? But it was so crazy because he's like, do you know how many? I was like, we're not in the streets, B. Like, we're just trying to make a relationship. We're just trying to love each other and like get married and have children. Like, we're just trying to have a nice life. Like, you know how many people? Like, just like slow the smoke, slow it down. It's all right.
And I think what would be funny is like, she would say that, you know, my family, you know, they're fighters. They know how to fight for their women, right? And so the mentality that I had is like, yo, who we fighting? Like, what is this fighting mentality about? Like from growing up in Toronto, like if you're gonna fight, you're coming with a squad. You're squatting up. You're coming, like someone's catching a fade. And so she had this mentality of you got to fight for this relationship, and I wasn't understanding. You know, I wasn't translating.
I didn't grow up in the ghetto either. Like, I didn't grow up in the hood, so it was like he was speaking all these different languages. I was like, squat up for like, sir, we're just trying to fashion. Like, let's just sort it out. Let's just sort it out like adults. And I think like we came from two very different backgrounds. I went to Adventist school like for all of my all my education. You went to like public school. So like there was a lot of differences that we had to overcome. And so like I was just like, sir, why are you so angry? Like, who hurt you? Like, let's talk about that, you know? So we really had to kind of confront some of those things, because like I just didn't understand. And when I told him like, I feel like you need to fight for stuff, you got to fight for a relationship, he felt like the only reason you fight for something is if you have beef. Like if we got an issue between us, that's when you have to fight. And I said, sir, no, fighting is a mentality. It's a mentality like no matter what, like I'm in this with you. Like we're going to stick it out. You know, we're going to make sure that we find a way to make it work. And so like, if you don't put divorce on the table, if you don't put breakup on the table, then you're going to have to find a way, you know? And I think that was one of those things that we both kind of had to work. And I think maybe even the terminology for him was triggering. But for me, that's just kind of how we grew up. And I think too, that's just how I grew up. I grew up with those kind of terminologies. I grew up with those kind of expectations. And so I had to learn how to even temper my language so that it meant something totally different for him. Like he's
every
like,
day she's like, fight, you gotta fight for him. I'm like, why am I fighting? I don't want to fight. I'm not trying to know. I don't want to do this. Like,
yeah, that was rough.
So both of you guys coming from two like totally different backgrounds, and then so mainly was just learning to understand each other, and then kind of
and being open. Like you gotta be open and take time to understand people. Like the reality is yeah, we do work, but we come from two completely different backgrounds and mentalities. But like it would have been easy for us to walk away. And I think, you know, the one thing that has always kept us together is that I truly believe that our purpose together is greater than apart. The things that we can accomplish as a couple is greater than apart. It's not about love. Love is great. Love is for cats and for dogs and for puppies. And my daughter loves her Barbies. And like, I love strawberries. But you know what I mean? Like there's something that's greater than love. And that's when you have a purpose, you know, when you are moving in life with a purpose. Because, you know, a lot of times like love isn't enough. And like, that's something that people don't tell you. Love is not enough. It's not going to keep you warm at night. Love isn't going to keep you paying the bills. Love is not going to keep you when, you know, because there's a lot of times I don't even like him. Like most of this week, I didn't like him. He was getting on my damn nerves. So like there's sometimes I don't like it, and so like it has to the love part and even the like part, you have to have something that goes beyond that keeps you together, that keeps you motivated, that keeps you in it. So like, yeah, everybody's like, you know, I don't know if I love him, and you know what, the love just fell apart. And it's like, that's cute, but like, what was the purpose? What was the purpose of you being together? What was the purpose of you guys like coming together? Oh, you didn't have a purpose? Oh, then like, we're not even talking about the love and the like and the, are you better with this person? Oh, you don't know if you're better with this person? Then no, we're not talking about love and like. I want to know how you're moving through life. Are you going to be better? Are you becoming better? Because if you're not, then like all the other stuff just doesn't even matter.
Yeah, definitely. And then so right from there, moving forward in I guess your guys' relationship, where did, like you guys talked about it last time, where did you learn about having a tribe in your life? And when they say tribe in this question, I see it as people to look at with experience or mentors in your life in this area. Where did you learn about having a tribe or to bounce your relationship off, and how did you guys choose them?
So I have a really, really large family. There's like, and I'm sure most of you do too, I have like 45 cousins on one side of my family, on my dad's side. And cousins that we know about. But so like, yeah, so I have like about 45 cousins on one side. And I always remember I was a teenager, and one of my older cousins, I don't know if some of you may know him, he's a preacher now. His name is Pastor Wesley Knight, or Dr. Wesley Knight. So I think he's a doctor now. Anyway, so Pastor Wesley Knight, he was dating this girl, and he brought her home to Toronto for the family to meet. It was tragic. It was just a tragedy. It was a tragedy. We hated her. We hated her. And we were, as a family, I was watching my aunts, my uncles, and my other older cousins, and like they were very okay with letting him know that like this ain't it. That like she was bougie. She was like, she wasn't able to relate to the family. Like we're like big jokers. We like are like big storytellers. Like we do crazy stuff. Like, and she was like prissy sitting in the corner, and like she had like her suit all nice and dressed, and like she had a big hat, and then we were just like, nah, bum, like that's not it. Like you, like she's not. Yeah, that's you know, you're gonna send her back to school and let her stay with the people that you know are her people, but she's not our kind of people.
You guys were vocal.
Yeah, but I remember as a teenager, I didn't like her, but like I'm a teenager. Like I think I was like maybe 15, so like my opinion doesn't really matter. But it was interesting for me to watch the other members of my family sit them down and be like, nah, boom, that's not it. And so that was really cool for me, because like that set the tone of like how I felt like how things should go. And it was interesting because like I know I think we talked about it with him last year, and he was like laughing because he was like, it was terrible because he could like literally feel how much we like disliked her. He came home all like, oh, you bring this pretty little thing for us to like he was ready to like propose and everything. Like he was ready, and we were just like, you gotta turn that around. And so we were laughing about it. We're like, why did you think that she was the one? And he's like, you know, she seemed like a nice person and all this kind of stuff. But he said like from that interaction, when he brought her home to the family, it exposed a lot of things that he could not see about her. And so for me, that kind of like set the tone of like how I felt like things should be, that like there should always be somebody else or some other people around you who could see things that you can't see. So like that's kind of set the tone for me of how I did things. And so when I started dating him, like he didn't understand that kind of mentality, because for him, squads and tribes are for fighting and for beef, and for me, squads and tribes are for like finding a mate and like storytelling and like good times, you know. But I think we both have been able to kind of get our own tribes together. And like I have a tribe and he has a tribe and we have a tribe together. And I think that's really important for us, because it's helped us to maintain our identity. And like I need to know that like if I'm having a hard time with something, I've got some of like my people, and he needs to know he's got some of his own people. Do you remember the time like we both were really upset at each other? And like, we were both really upset at each other, and we both called the same person. And she's on the phone. I think she was on the phone with my husband first. I think he called her first, and literally 30 seconds later, I called her. And then she's like, I don't even know who I should be talking to right now. And I was like, this is not going to work. Like, we just need our own people so that, like, you know, like when things happen, that solid people and people we both know about and people we both approve of, so that we know how to kind of move through life. I don't know how tribe is for you though. Like, is that the same kind of thing for you? You see it the same way?
Yeah, no, I do think it's important that there are a group of people that you can trust with your emotions and with your issues and your stuff. You know, there's this debate of, you know, how much do you share and who do you share with? You know, your inside bedroom information. And I think that, you know, there really got to be some people who can hold you down, who you can trust with literally your life.
And that their first thing isn't going to tell you to break up. You got to have people who know, like, who value marriage and who value, like, godly covenant, who will know when, like, it's time for you to be out.
True.
And who also know that, like, you know,
you're
just being dumb right now, you know, so, like, suck it up and, like, you know, go apologize to your husband and, like, move on with life.
I never really thought of it that way, but, like, yeah, bring people around your family can expose things that you can't see personally. Especially
if your family's not toxic, if you got
yeah, 100%. If your family's not toxic and your family has, like, values and yeah. And if you agree with your family's values and it, like, so that all makes sense, 100%. Moving on to our next question, which is going back to the convo last week that we had. How did you talk? I think it was Cheri that talked about an individual that said. Okay, I'll just read the question. How did you respond to the individual who said, why should I be abstinent when I have better sex than my parents? So that's going back to that question.
Why are you leaving that? Why are you leaving that? Sit up. Come on. Come on, Dr. Notice. Sit up.
Talk from your chest.
That was interesting because that actually, I was actually doing a whole workshop, and, like, that was a question, like, on the mic.
Oh, wow.
I was just like, okay, one, you're whole exposing your family right now. Two, you're whole exposing yourself right now. Like, I don't even know how we're going to have this, like, dialogue. But the one thing that, like, I truly believe is that the generation, go ahead.
Isn't it true though sometimes?
It is true. It is true. And I think that that's a lot of why you can see in the church, there's a lot of unhappy couples. There's a lot of unhappy couples because they haven't learned how to come together. They haven't learned how to navigate some of the, like we talked, their emotional traumas. They haven't learned how to communicate. And a lot of them just are not even having any sex at all. So, like, that's going to make you very, very uptight and not very nice. And not nice to your children, not nice to other people. There are some people, as soon as they have children, their children become their world. And you see that, and everything else stops from that. And I think that's something that we've been very intentional about, we love our children to pieces. I love them to death. But, like, I have to love my husband. I know people are going to jump on this, but I have to love my husband more. I have to love my husband more because this relationship between my husband is going to set the tone for my children. And so it's one of those things that some people just don't understand, but I can't love my children more than I love my husband. This is the primary relationship and everything else trickles down from that. If this is broken, my children are broken. So with that said, what I basically said to them is, like, you have to break your generational curses. You know, I believe that all the generational curses, all the generational bondage, all the things that my family has been going through, I intend that it stops with me. And the things that I have, I intend that, like, hopefully my children, it stops with them. So I said to them, like, the way that your parents have done marriage doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. And that the reality is what God has for us is actually the sweetest thing that you will ever experience. And just because you haven't seen it done right doesn't mean that you can't do it right. you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's one of those things, like just doing something, your parents did something that's incorrect and you doing something that's incorrect, it makes you just two broken people. They're broken and you're broken differently, you know? And so to me, like that doesn't help you. Like everybody like is out here having sex and stuff like that. And like, honestly, we know that, you know, my husband, he's like, yeah, like he says like, what is it?
Wherever people can get it, fit it in, they'll get it in.
Yeah, wherever people can fit it in, they'll get it in. I'm like, sir, like, please don't make that a catchphrase or nothing. But
no, like I'm just keeping it 100, you know.
Yeah,
like,
keep it 100, authentic.
That's where we're at, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and I think part of the issue is, I think that Christians have probably not done a good job at dealing with sex and talking about sex and education. And so it looks crummy. It looks whack. It looks suspect. And so I remember, you know, growing up, going to church, and we had a talk on sex, you know, I was like 15, and it was so cringy. Like, you know, like it didn't have a good appeal. And so I'm like,
they didn't even want to say sex. Like,
yeah, they didn't.
How
like
many of you guys grew up in a church where you couldn't even say sex on the mic? Yeah.
Like the whole thing was just like, yo.
If you said sex, they're shutting off your mic. Like they cutting that off. You
Hello.
The word sex, like.
So I think that trickles over into the sexual, the bedroom, you know, as Christians, and then like a lot of Christians, like I'm hearing, you know, they don't have healthy sex lives or positive sex lives, and it's not good. And then you start looking elsewhere. You start looking for that porn star sex, and so it literally spills over into other things. And so I can see why. As a matter of fact, I know why people would say, man, how come sex feels better and it's so much better outside of the marriage bed or outside of the Christian realm? I can see why. And I think we need to really probably go back to the root of it and really deal with this thing properly, you know? Yeah.
But I just think that like, it's really important that people understand that like, it's not just about being abstinent. That's something that we push. And that's what I said to them. It's not just about being abstinent. It's about being whole and finding somebody who can really meet your needs. Sex isn't just a physical thing. If you're just having sex for physicality, like you're missing out. Like it really is an intimate experience, and it starts before like the whole penis and vagina thing. Like it starts, you know, with the words that you say. It starts with like the way that they meet their needs. It's like washing your dishes. It's about like having those intimate conversations. Like there's a lot of things that you miss out if you're just having the physical act of sex. And I think that's the sad thing, that a lot of kids, because like you're having the physical part of sex, you're actually missing out on the best parts of it, which isn't just like the whole, like the physicality. It's that connection that you feel with somebody who you know loves you and knows you. It's like that, the fact that you're with somebody who like aims to please you. It's the fact that this is somebody who you don't got to worry about kicking out your bed the next morning. It's about somebody who's doing life with you. And like, if you didn't get it right today, like you can get it right tomorrow. Like it, like there's a safety, there's a beauty, there's an intimacy, there's like a lot of fun, there's a lot of joy that comes with it, within that. Like when you're not doing that within marriage, that you can't trust that. You don't know if the person's going to be there the next time. You don't know how many partners you're going to end up having. You don't know if they're going to be there. You don't even know if they're in it with you just to have sex. And I think that insecurity, I think, would bother me if like, I don't know if, you know, how many people you having sex with, how many girls you got on the side, like, you know.
I think what happens too, you know, as you know, I have this theology, you know, where the rest, you know, if people, wherever people can fit it in, they'll get it in if they have a chance. You know, if they have the means, the motives, they'll do that. But I think before pre-marriage for me, I was reckless. I was in these streets, you know, I was hitting everything. And what it did was I developed bad habits, and then I brought that into my marriage. And then on the wedding night, I was expecting, you know what I'm saying? Porn star sex and real rap.
And I was a virgin.
Real rap.
So like,
that didn't happen. And so then I started to, yeah, like it was hella awkward. And then I started to resent her. I was like, yo, how come you're not doing it like what's her Woo Woo was doing it back in the day, you know? And it took a good couple of years. Is that sorry? Am I doing too
No,
much?
don't say the name.
Bro, you good.
Don't be calling.
I just saw my parents on the live, and I saw them dying laughing.
I'm dry snitching on my old, you know. Well, anyways, we'll keep them under wraps. And so, but what I did was I put pressure on her, and for like 7 years, probably like a good couple years, it was just like I had to do some readjustments. You know, I had to go through some counseling. We had to do counseling, and I'm saying that's all because of I was in the streets before doing reckless, trying to get it in. And so for my young people out there, like, you might be having great, you know, sex right now outside of marriage, but I'm saying in the end, it's going to impact you. It's going to, if you're trying to do the marriage thing, the Christian thing, and do it right, do it godly, it's going to impact you.
But it's impacting you right now. I think that's what people understand. It's impacting you right now. You know, sex is beautiful. Sex is wonderful. It's impacting you right now. And I'm not going to, I just tell people, like, I'm not going to tell you not to have sex. I feel like you're grown. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Like, you've been knowing what you've been supposed to be doing. So I'm not going to be, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying to you is that, like, the fact that you are engaging in that means that there's something within you that's broken, that like that probably needs healing. You know what I mean? And so take that time to heal and be whole. It's not about the sex. It's about you being a whole person. It's about you coming at life complete, and feeling that, like, you don't need something to be loved. You don't need something to show up in the world. So that's just my thing. I don't tell people not to have sex, because there's enough people who are doing that. You already know what that is. So my thing is more so, like, I want people to be whole. I want people to be healed. And if you have had sex before marriage, it's not like the end of the world. Like, life, like, we all sin. That's not the hugest thing. But I do recommend, that's one thing I wish we had done, is I wish that we had addressed that better within our premarital counseling. So get your counseling, get your therapy, so that you can heal from that and you can show up in your marriage whole and ready to slay.
And, you know, I also want to keep it 100, keep it a thou wow with this, right? Like, I think guys know if you're a ting or if you're wifey.
Oh gosh.
Can I go there today? Maybe I'm speaking for myself.
Hit it. Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
yes.
So girls, this is where
what the ting is.
Okay.
Like,
Sorry, I did my doctorate in urban ministry, so let me break this down. So, is someone you're just slamming, you're just clapping. That's just a side piece. You know what I'm saying? And so for the girls, you know, you got to be careful that you don't just become a side piece. And Cheri, she shared me this quote yesterday. You don't want to be just warming. What is it again?
There was a girl said she's a foster girlfriend. So she's the girlfriend that you had before the guy actually, like, gets married. So, like, before he actually finds the love, like, she calls herself the foster girlfriend.
Wow.
Like don't just be set to warm someone up for someone else to snatch them and marry them. Because I'm saying, guys, we know who we're gonna wife. We know the type of lady and girl we're looking for. And so while you're giving it up, it feels great. The guy knows, like, yo, this is probably not the one for me. This is not wifey. This is not the one who's gonna make my home. Who's gonna take care of my children. This is just a clap. And so you just gotta know. You gotta know your place and know yourself, as Drake says. Like, know yourself. Like, if you're just a side piece, okay, cool. But guys,
cool.
I'm just saying, guys know the difference, and they know what they want. So I just feel like that's where I think too, like, if you're with somebody, you should know whether or not this person is going to be the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Because if not, you're just wasting time. Like, you're just wasting time. You're just clapping for no reason. Like, find somebody who has the qualities, who you're thinking, okay, cool, I might be able to settle down with this. I don't think you should ever be in a relationship and you know that this ain't going nowhere. You know, you're doing an injustice to yourself and also to the other person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I know that does happen, and it's just like to pass time, or relationship to pass time, or whatever it might be. So I know that totally happens, and I think that's a whole nother topic, though. Like, and it does trickle down from the example as, like, Christians in the church, and not having that talking about that good sex life. I think it does 100% trickle down from that and what the youth are doing about that, because they don't see that as an example. 100%.
I would love to know, like, someone in the chat, like, what is it about just like hanging with, like, having a girlfriend or having a boyfriend just to have it? Like, isn't that a lot of stress? Like, some people, I mean, because we're at Birmingham University, and they just be like, yeah, you know, I'm just lonely.
It's like cuffing season.
But I don't understand. But you have to like pay for meals. You still gotta like
a lot of investment.
A lot of investment for something that you want. So, like, I'm a little older, so like just someone just type it there, like, let me know, like, what is it that like why people like just, you know, it's not going where, and they know it's not going nowhere, but you're just like, it's like they just do it just so that they can have somebody. Like those college years. Just let me know why. I would love to know.
Okay, before we go on the next question here, I did want to touch on what Cheri said about putting your husband before your kids. That is a big topic to some people as well. I'll give you a quick analogy. My parents on this live. I'll give you a quick analogy that my dad used to always say. He's like, kids, if you guys were drowning and my wife was drowning, I would save my wife and leave you guys to die. That's what he would say. He's like, we can make more of you guys. Right? That's what he used to say. But yeah, okay, let's hop on to this next question. How involved were your parents in your dating process?
I'm assuming that's probably for me, but we did for both of us. So they were involved in the initial part. So like I brought him home to the family, and it was really important that like they knew who he was, and that they didn't have any, or they didn't see any major red flags. It wasn't even that they had to like love him, but I need to know that they didn't see any red flags, and they thought that like he could be a good fit. And then after that, like my parents are actually pretty hands off of our relationship, which I actually like. I can come to them. So even now, like if I have an issue, I go to them and like I may talk to them about stuff. There's certain things that my mom and dad don't want to know. My dad told me that in no uncertain terms. He's like, I'm your dad. So if you tell me something about your husband that's like super, super, super bad, like I'm gonna come there, I'm gonna kill him, and then like you're gonna cry because I killed your husband. So he's like, there are certain things that like you cannot come to me for because I'm your father.
Yeah, and I think that's where, and there was one time we got into a tiff, we got into an argument because I felt like she shouldn't have shared something with her parents. And she was like, man, we're not an island unto ourselves. I'm like, yo, at the end of the day, it's rough for me because you expose me and your mother and father will forever have that image of me. And so I can't change it. I can't take that back. And that's unfair to me. I got to go to Christmas dinners. I got to go to, Thanksgiving, and they're looking at me like side eye, like we know what you did. You know what I'm saying? So like, so I think that there are times where you can share with your parents, but there are certain things that are reserved for the bedroom and the bedroom only. Like you don't even share that with your brother, your sister, whoever. That's just between you and, you and your, loose lips sink ships like that. I feel like that's a real thing.
Yeah, but that's where your tribe comes in. I think that's where your tribe comes in there. Cause like we have friends who like are our peers, and like, they don't look at each other. Like, they're in marriage too. So like, they know like their marriage is a wreck sometimes too. So like there's a mutual understanding there, and there's no judgment there, or there's less judgment. So that's why I think where your tribe comes in. But yeah, my parents were heavily involved in like the beginning process. They are a good support for us. There are little things that like I may ask their advice about. They always encourage us. And
I think it's healthy. I think it's a healthy process that, both parents, both sides, they know what's going down. I think it's important that I did get to know her mom and dad, and I talked to her dad about things and stuff. I think it's important because at the end of the day, this is the family that you've inherited. Like, they're not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I had a good mentor that said, at some point, your in-laws should become your outlaws. And so, meaning you got to leave and cleave. Yeah. There are certain marriages there's certain marriages where the parents are so heavily involved in it. It's like we all married together. And that's not healthy. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's not it. But there should be a good, healthy, close working relationship for sure.
And for every couple, it might look a little bit different. So you have to decide how much is too. There's a point where for everybody it's too much, but you have to decide between the two of you where that line is drawn. And we had to have a conversation because he was super close with his mom. It's like, yeah, he's mama's boy. Trying to put my parents on blast. You a whole mama's boy, like bills would be coming to our house and his name and his mama's name.
I remember.
His mom, no.
I know.
We'll put your whole family. We'll put you on blast.
I know. What you trying to put me on blast for?
Yeah.
Why you trying to put me on blast? Wait. I'm just giving an example. So we had just gotten married. We just got married, and we went on our honeymoon, and we came back. We went to Orlando, came back home to my mom's in Scarborough, and so. My mom, I'm used to my mom doing my laundry. And so she did both of our laundries. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool. I'm used to this, right? Our laundry is like lemon fresh, folded. And she's like, pull it aside. And she's like, oh, Lyle. Like, what? No, hold on. What are you doing? What? No, your mom is not doing my drawers.
My panties, my bras. And they were like on the line. Like just in the backyard, like that's like my underwear, sir. Like, and it's like she folded it and she put it back in her bags. And I was just like, sir, like that's not okay. Too much. Yeah, she threw out our dishes. She told me she didn't like the color of them. So we for both of us, we had to learn to put set boundaries.
It's a good thing that we live away from home. Yeah. And I think that too, like we made a decision that no matter what happens, we're not going to be living with our parents. Yeah. Because it's difficult. Then they have a magnifying glass in everything you do. And I think that there's healthy space between the married couple and parents, I think.
Yeah. So we had to create boundaries. And we had to have a communication about that. We'll talk about it.
A couple years.
We had to talk about it because like you have to keep shifting. It's not just like people think it's just a process. It's a one-time process, but it's a process where you keep shifting because then you have children and that's another shift, and like where you move. And so like you just kind of have to be open, have that dialogue, and then just know that like a boundary can be moved, so that it's not just a one-time set conversation.
Yeah, that totally makes a lot of sense. You guys are hilarious. So funny.
Flying in the wind.
But it makes sense. So both of your parents were involved, I guess, initially in the beginning. Yeah. And then just kind of making those boundaries, and there's changes as you guys go through different phases of marriage and different things like that. But setting those boundaries, so that makes lots of sense. And I know for my family, our parents love to be heavily involved in I would say in the initial process of it all.
You gotta be careful. Like his parents are like,
I know. Yeah. Gotta guard what I'm saying right now. But yeah. Hey, I'm still in their house right now. They're out there. Yeah. Might come in here and give me a whooping. All right, but moving on. I know you guys touched.
You're not gonna say anything else about.
No, we're moving on. We're moving on. I know you guys touched on this question a little bit last time. Of Lyle saying that, or both of you guys saying that you didn't really look at each other that way. But this is a 3-part question about having ideals. When dating, couples have ideals and that they share and they fall in love. But what adjustments did you guys make? When reality hit and your ideals after marriage and your ideals were still kind of in your head, but reality set in. Yes, 3-part question. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
What would you say to on how you navigated the ideals and reality, and then before reality set in, and how could we prepare? How could you talk to us about preparing for that?
I don't know. I think for me, I realize, speaking from a God perspective, sometimes you don't always get what you think you want. I was used to dating girls with long hair, light skin. And so I did not get the ideal that I wanted, Cheri does not look like, I'm being honest, she knows we talked about this for years. She is not who I would have chosen for myself,
I'm better.
She ended up being better. Yes, she ended up being better.
You can say it's all right. I just
but like I said, so in the beginning, the young me, I was searching for something else. I had my whole list. I had these values, I had these qualities, and I didn't get that. But when I look back, like how much years, 19 years later, I'm like, God, how did you know that I needed this? How did you know that I would be so attracted to her now more than when I first met her? And so I feel like I lucked out. I was blessed that way. And there's some girls that I look back at, man, they had the sort of exterior package. They had what I looked like, what I was looking for looks wise, but they would have been terrible. I look back now, and would they have been a good mother to my kids? Would they have been able to support me through ministry? And so I feel like I didn't get what I wanted. I got actually what, I needed,
I think he's more talking, not more, but I think he's also talking about just expectations for marriage. Like most times people come into marriage thinking it's just going to be like sunshine and rainbows, and like you're just going to be a porn star sex, and like you're just going to like have like food at the table at 6 p.m. every night, and like you're going to walk to the beach, and it's just going to be a lovely time, like lovely day, lovely day. Like I think that's more what he's talking, not more, but also what they're talking about. Like your expectations that you bring. You have an ideal of how you think marriage is going to be, and then there is like after day 3 it crumbles. And then you gotta like, no, stay in the frame, stay in the frame. And then you have to like, how do you navigate through that, right? So I think for me, I'm a realist. Like I am not an idealist. I wasn't the girl who planned her wedding when she was 5 and like had all the characters, and like I wasn't one of those people. Like I was one of those people who my biggest accomplishment, I just wanted a Jeep Grand Cherokee, I wanted a loft, and I wanted a good job. Like that was my thing. I didn't even know if I was really going to get married. So I think my expectations for marriage was different. And I think the way that our relationship had gone, because we had dated for 7 years, like 7 long years. We started dating when I was 17 and I got married when I was 24. We had 2 degrees together, 2 breakups. Like there was a lot that happened in that time frame. And during premarital counseling, I think it was when I realized that like my marriage was going to be hard work. And I think for me, I had to make the choice at that point. Like, did I want to go through with this, knowing that like this was not going to look like other people's marriage?
And I think with that, I always tell young couples I always just keep it real. And I feel like a lot of times we think that marriage is this wonderful, beautiful thing, which it can be, but no one really tells you. You ever see that movie called Why Did I Get Married? Like sometimes you will ask, all the time you will ask yourself, why did I get married? Like, I feel like married couples sometimes I know we got some married couples, some parents here. Like, don't you ask that? Like, keep it real. Like, you might not even tell your spouse that, but sometimes it's like, why did I get married again? Like, why? Because it's hard. No one tells you that marriage is a hard thing. And sometimes you feel like you want to give up. Sometimes you want to walk out. You want to sign the divorce papers. But that's why I think that love is not, it's not this magical thing. Love is literally a choice. You choose every day through the struggles, through the hard times, through the character flaws, the good and the bad, through the, you choose to stay together in spite of the crap, that sometimes you got to go through. And it's not all sunshine, and sometimes there's rain, but at the same time, I just feel like love is a choice, and you choose to be with this person for better or worse.
And I think that the best way to navigate those times is before you get married, you need to kind of have those kind of hard conversations. I went into marriage knowing exactly what I was getting myself into. I knew that he came from a broken place. I knew that even at the time of our marriage, he was broken. I knew that. And like, I don't
Still
like,
broken.
yeah. And I don't necessarily suggest that to other people, but I really, like, I prayed long and hard about it. I fasted about it. I asked God to send us signs about it. And then I knew that, like, the purpose that, like, God clearly told me the purpose of us being together wasn't about love, sunshine, and rainbows. He's like, there's a greater purpose ministry-wise. There's a greater purpose for you that I need you, like, for you to be together, for you to be able to accomplish. And so, and the times where, like, life got really rough, like, I had to go back to that moment. And, like, we've had, like, remember I pull all your clothes out on the all of them? Yeah. Real talk. That's another story. That's another story. But, like, we've had some really rough times, and, like, we'd have to come back, we have to sit, we'd have to pray, and then we have to act, like, remind ourselves, like, why are we in this? And it's, once again, it's not for the good feelings. It's because, like, the purpose that God set for us is greater than just how I feel today. So that's how I feel like you can navigate through that. You know, do those hard conversations before you get married. Get premarital counseling so that there'll be less surprises in marriage, you know, and find a good therapist. A lot of times you guys go to your pastor, and that's all good. I feel like there's pastoral counseling that you should get, but you should go to, like, a therapist who can also help you outside of just, like, the church realm, can help you to navigate. And so, like, the less surprises you have, the better, because then you can set strategies of how you're going to be able to navigate through that. And then just communicate, and remember that the purpose that God put you together is always greater than the way that you feel in that moment.
I remember there was a counselor that said to us, in the dating phase, it's only after a year that the masks come off. You know, after 1 year, that's when the real makeup comes off, and the eyelash, all that stuff.
Start farting in front of, like, each other.
You start burping in front. Like, that's when you see the real self. Yeah. So sometimes people are sort of still living with the mask on, and you're dating them, and you're like, oh, this is all good. But as soon as those masks come off, that's when you really find out who that person is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely, because, like, we all have, and we asked the same question to Harold and Marissa, that was on the live with you guys as well. And, like, a lot of the times, like, we all have our ideals and the things that we would like to see on a spouse and different things like that. But at the same part, when both spouses are looking for ideals, someone tries to be that ideal person, and it's not who they actually are. And that's why those hard conversations are so that they have to be had, so you can really communicate. It's all about communication, and really communicate on who you are, who that person is, being authentic, and really getting down and dirty in those conversations, which makes a lot of sense. And one thing you said, premarital counseling, I remember from yesterday's live, Narissa, she talked about premarital counseling and how people laugh at that sometimes because you're not even married. But it's just like taking your license. You take the written test. Premarital counseling is like taking the driving test. You don't know how to drive yet, but you take the written test and you think you can drive, but you can't. It's like marriage and premarital counseling. You take the written test. You write your vows. Not your vows. Your vow. Yeah, your vows. You write the written test, but you don't really know how to do marriage, and that's where premarital counseling comes in, and so huge.
I think, yeah, as you touch on, I feel like, honestly, one of the best things you can do as a couple is get premarital counseling.
And he won't marry couples if they haven't had counseling.
No.
So that he has to, like, if he's marrying somebody, he will contact the pastor or the therapist or whoever and, like, have a conversation with them. Because it's like, when you marry him, there's a responsibility on him as well, like, as the pastor marrying somebody. So you want to make sure that you've done all that you can do to make sure that, your due diligence. So, like, as a couple, do your own due diligence and make sure that, like, you're kind of learning how to navigate.
And I think that for us, like, we had Dr. Lawrence, who was our marriage counselor, and he said to us at the beginning, there was probably 8 or 10 sessions, whatever, and he said, Lyle and Cheri, I'm telling you this. If at any point we're going through this counseling session and I don't feel like you guys are fit to be together, it's a wrap. I'm closing this down. You can find someone else. I am not marrying you. And we were like, for real? At first we're like, for real? We want to get married. But he was keeping it real. And I think that in the premarital counseling session, a lot of the things come out in the wash. You know, if it's done really well and done good and the due diligence is there, like you find out stuff. Sometimes you find out stuff in premarital counseling that you didn't know before. And so I feel like I recommend it, even if you're in the dating phase, like it is key. Yeah, sorry.
Awesome. We did one other question from one of the people on the live. What effect does porn have on marriage and building a relationship?
That's what you say.
Give it to him.
Talk for myself.
No, because he actually has done quite a bit. No, but you've done quite a bit of counseling with a lot of like men and women who have struggled with pornography.
The lead, I'll pick up.
The problem with pornography is that it sets an unrealistic expectation in marriage. If you even have like looked at any sort of like interviews with porn stars and stuff like that, they said like what they're basically trying to sell you a fantasy, because this is not no intimacy. They're not having this wild and ruckus sex like we're experiencing it. There's like 40 people in the room. There's cameras. There's mics. There's stuff like they may do 3 and 4 different takes. They can change. There's a lot of things that are happening in that 15-minute or 5-minute section that you're watching that you think is like, yeah, that's what I want. And so they're selling you on a fantasy that is unrealistic, that cannot happen. And I think that's the tough thing, because I think pornography really damages your mind, and because it damages your expectations with what you can expect from a partner. So even if you there's no way that it's as fluid and as whatever, that's just not how it works in life. There's not going to be a person to direct you on where to put your arm or where to that's just not how it is. And so I think because of that, sex within marriage and sex in general in real life, it will be a letdown for you. I think that's the saddest part about pornography, is that it really waters down real sex and real connection. Because you think that what you see on this, with somebody with the perfect breast and the perfect whatever and the perfect angle is now has become your expectation. So
I think too, there's this quote that says what you think about most you become. And so essentially if you're eating that up, essentially you become that. You want that. You want to actually enact that, and you want to play that out. And so anything you look at, like a dog walking down the street, it has that impact where you're trying to imagine and fantasize about this thing that you just watched, and now you want to put it into action. And so what happens is you create this unquenchable thirst, because you can never get enough of it. That's the problem with porn. Once you get into it, it's so hard rewiring your brain. It never stops. You have this thing where it's an addiction, what it literally leads to, because you always want it all the time. I know some friends and whatnot, we talk about it, and it's there's times of the day where you're doing your work, and all you can think about is getting into that private room and doing your thing. And so you create unrealistic expectations. You continue to foster these fantasies and these imaginations that are not real, but you want essentially to be real. And I think it's difficult to rewire your brain once you get started going down that rabbit hole.
And I think because of that, a lot of people who struggle with pornography, they struggle with just connection, with just friendship. They have a hard time with connecting with people and learning how to be, not even just sex intimacy, but just even how to connect with real life people. Because it has really rewired their brain. And so that's why there are special psychologists and therapists who actually have to help people to overcome that, because it doesn't just affect your sex life or your marriage. It actually affects how you move through life. It affects how you connect with people, how you talk to people. It affects like what you expect from friendship and what you expect, you know, from other people. And it also affects like your working life, you know. It affects your finances. There's a lot of areas that it affects that you may not be able to see because you think into some like hobby, it's just a pastime. And so it's very, very dangerous. And it's not like an end all be all, but it's one of those things that like you really will have to find somebody who is a trained like therapist and psychologist to help you move through that, so that you're able to find the true meaning of having like friendship and connection, and like how important it is for us as humans to kind of be interacting with each other, and how like life isn't perfect, but it's that imperfection that makes us beautiful. I think that born, it makes us believe that perfection is beautiful, when it's the imperfections that make you beautiful. It's the imperfections of how you do things that makes life fun. It's what brings us joy. It's what makes us, you know, the funny stories in life. So like selling the fantasy and selling the perfection really does damage you, because then you don't have an opportunity to really see the beauty in the imperfections.
I think it also gives you a false sense of access as well, because, you know, you're with your wife, you're with one person, but then you're watching all of these different girls and different people take place. And then it's like, you wish you could have that, and you start immediately and you start thinking about that. And then it's like, I remember I was talking to one friend, it's like, man, I want to play this out. You know, where, you know, I'm happily married, but yet I'm watching these things, and it's like, you know, there's this Asian girl and there's the other girl, and it's like, it gives you this false sense of access that I have one person I'm with, but I'm seeing what can be done, and then there's others girls that I could do that with, and it's just like, you know, you should be reserving yourself only for, you know, one person, but you feel like, man, maybe I could get it in where I could fit it in with other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was good. That was a good answer to that question, really. Just due to time, we're wrapping up here, guys. Thank you so much, Pastor Lyle and Cheri Notice. Yeah, you guys, really funny. Thank you guys for just being on here today, and being willing to be authentic and raw, and share your guys' story and your experiences, which is super awesome. I really believe that you guys have 100% touched at least one person in this live, but I'm hoping everyone. But what we're gonna do, thank you guys all. I'm just gonna let you guys know that this is being recorded and we're uploading it onto our Crossing YouTube. And we're just gonna close in a word of prayer and then get going, say our goodbyes. Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for that we're all able to be here today. Thank you for speaking through Pastor Lyle and Cheri, and just being able to impact and be a blessing. Thank you for being with YNA as we continue to have these sessions in these lives, and that we're able to continue to impact more people on a wider scale, and that you're with us every step of the way, and that you're leading where this car is going. I pray that you can bless everyone that is on this live and people that weren't able to make it, and just help them at least take one thing away from today, and be able to apply that in their lives. Thank you for the questions that we have gotten, and that we're able to touch on all these topics. In your name I pray, amen. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, Pastor Lyle and Cheri, and thank you for all of everyone else that's on this live, and I hope that it was able to bless you guys. But awesome. Love you guys. Thank you.